up, guys? It's Juju Talk Sports. Talking to Jose Corral. This is 49 Reasons Listen. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, faithful, as we know you are ready for our game breakdown of the San Francisco 49ers going in 0-1 versus the New York Jets. When we talk about revenge war, let's just do revenge war for 1 week. I just need them to absolutely obliterate the Jets. That's all I need out of the weekend, Jose. I don't know about you, but there's no reason this game should even be within 3 scores. 3 scores. I'm making that bold take here. Vegas only wants to go 7 points, but I'm saying 21 minimum.
Yeah, 3 scores is a lot for me, Juju, just because from what we saw week 1 of the Niners, there are some things that need to be fixed. But at the same time, what we saw week 1 of the Jets, you're right. It should be at least double digits. For me, I think 10 is that number. If it is within a touchdown, I would still be a little bit concerned. If we're within a touchdown, I know it's a road game, and we have to travel across the country. But even then, if it is within a touchdown, I would be a little bit worried. I really would. But at the same time, we have some issues. We have injury problems. And the team just didn't play as well as it should have in week 1, which maybe for week 2, it could be a little bit of an eye-opener for the team, and they could just kind of wake up and be like, okay, season started, revenge tour really is on now, let's get it together. And what better team to do it against these kind of little lonely Jets who are kind of struggling, one of the kind of those more struggling organizations around the league in the past couple of years. So, yeah, I'm expecting something huge. I'm expecting not that close of a game as well. 21 points is a lot for me, but if it is within a touchdown, I'm going to be worried.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the things that may pose problems to my bold prediction here. As you mentioned, the Niners do have some issues. One of the big ones that came out of nowhere this week was Richard Sherman is going to be placed on the short-term IR. Now, we get to hear about a calf injury. I know that when you hear calf injuries, people a lot of times like to associate those with Achilles injuries. We know when we signed Richard Sherman a couple years ago that an Achilles tear, what was coming back from. But for this team as a whole, at cornerback, we understand that this is not ideal. We're talking about E-Man, of course. He's going to be sliding into that number 1 corner role. McCallow is settling back into play. I know he's dealing with his own thing. I believe he showed up in concussion protocol this week. Jason Verrett, of course, hamstring injury. And then we are signing guys to our practice squad. Overall, the defensive backfield is definitely cause for concern. Luckily, when you look at the New York Jets, the only one of those wide receivers that poses any real threat is Jamison Crowder. Denzel Mims is still rookie and developing. There's not a lot of guys that you're really scared of or that impose fear on you. So I think as long as our guys are able to maintain, their cover 2 zone, their offensive line is obviously still bad. So I imagine that our pass rush should be able to get home on Sam Darnold. He's more mobile than most, but he's still not he's not Lamar Jackson back here. He's certainly not Kyler Murray. And we know that that's the main thing that's gave the Niners issues. So I am definitely, it's not fun. It's not great that we're hearing that Richard Sherman is not going to be playing in this game. But I don't have as much concern about it. What about you?
I'm not concerned about it as far as this week. I am a little bit concerned about it going into the future. I'm more concerned if it's going to linger on throughout the middle part of the season. We're hearing about 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most right now for that calf injury. I'm more worried about it lingering on into the very important part of the season. Right now in week 2, you obviously never want to have an injury, but if you want to get them out of the way early and they don't come back later on in the season, if that's the plan, I guess then we'll roll with it. Because, for week 2, it's going to be difficult being without the leader and the defensive backs, maybe even the leader and the whole entire defense. It's going to be difficult playing without Richard Sherman, but Ahkello Witherspoon, it's time to step up. It's time to prove that, you do belong in that secondary, that you do deserve a spot in that secondary. And Emmanuel Mosley is going to have to play better than what he did in week 1. Jimmy Ward and Kwasi Tart, they were fine week 1. And they should be fine against, like you mentioned, this offense isn't really going to pose too many threats. Sam Darnold is a little bit more talented than a lot of quarterbacks around the league. I will give him that. But he just doesn't have the weapons around him. Very weak offensive line, which the defensive line, which they didn't play bad in week 1, but I would like to see a little bit more of an impact on the opposing quarterback, and I think they're going to have that type of impact in this week. This week, I think they're going to be able to build a little bit more pressure against a weaker offensive line in the Jets. So I think, the defense, they should still be fine. I think I'm more worried about the injuries moving forward than necessarily this week. I think the personnel that we have going into week 2 is more than capable enough to blow out the Jets.
Okay, and that is more than fair. I think it's just going to be very hard for the Jets to be able to move the ball on offense. But let's talk about moving the ball for the Niners. So we know that there's going to be a new pass catcher in town. Most new. We had a video breakdown of that. Go ahead and check that out, by the way. That's a shameless plug to that video. But we also have potentially, from the sounds of it, all positive indicators, Brandon Ayuk will be making his rookie debut this week in training camp. There was talks that Brandon Ayuk looked as one of the most polished rookies that a lot of the beat writers that have been covering the Niners for years have seen. Now, that could just be camp eyes. Everyone just has a little bit of beer goggles there whenever they're seeing the new rookies doing their thing and shining a little bit, building a little bit of rapport with the starting quarterback. I don't expect Brandon Ayuk to just step in day one and be an immediate threat, similar to I don't expect big things from Mosa New. I mean, I was a little bit more reserved on like how I felt about that signing. But considering that last week we were running out a starting unit of Trent Taylor, Kendrick Bourne, Dante Pettis slipping in there every now and then, couldn't be worse. Couldn't be worse. At least we're taking a step in the positive direction. Hopefully another big headline, of course, is George Kittle is about 50-50 at this point to play. If you're going to sit him out, I guess the Jets would be the matchup in which you can see them doing it. I would like to see Jordan Reed get a little bit more involved this week. Whether Kittle plays or not, I would like to see more Jordan Reed involved in this offense. I think that eventually we're going to have to start taking the training wheels off of Jordan Reed. If he's going to play football, then he has to play football. He can't just be on the sidelines nursing his body that's been beat up over the years.
No, I agree. I think this is a huge week for the offense. Anytime you I'm not going to call it a slump after week 1, but they did start pretty stagnant. Other than that Raheem Mostert, catch and took it all the way like 70 yards. Other than that, the offense just seemed very out of sync. But there's nothing better than facing a team like the Jets to get your offense going, facing the defense like the Jets without Jamal Adams now to kind of get your offense going. And you mentioned the two receivers that are, Brandon Ayuk and then Mosa Sanu, who are going to be more than likely going to be making their Niners debuts on Sunday. You mentioned it is new bodies, but it's two bodies that are desperately needed in a desperately needed position. Because the receivers just didn't play well week 1. I'm not going to say Brandon Ayuk and Mosa Sanu are going to fix all the problems on that part of the field, but it's going to help. I don't see this hurting in any way possible. And I just think Jimmy Garoppolo having a couple more weapons is just going to help him. It's going to help Kyle Shanahan to get some guys open in different spots. But the offense really needs to get it going. I know Raheem Mostert had a pretty decent game for most of the part in week 1. Maybe getting Tevin Coleman a little bit more involved, Jerick McKinnon a little bit more involved as well. Just throwing different looks at opposing defenses might help a little bit more. Even design a couple of plays for Kyle Juszczyk out of the backfield as well too. So I think this is a really important week for Kyle Shanahan and the rest of the offense, just because, we don't want to look like the offense doesn't want to look like the way it did in week 1. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see that really happening. And hopefully this week, playing a kind of weaker defense like this is just going to propel them to, play a little bit better in this early part of the season.
Was that intentional when you said slump? Were you trying to, the Slump Buster podcast? Because I have another show for you with hashtag Bust the Slump. Go ahead and check out @Slump Buster Podcast on IG.
Yes.
But other than that, guys, if you are talking about a slump buster, I would definitely consider the New York Jets the perfect opportunity at busting any slump. This organization is right for the picking. It reminds me of week 2, whenever the Niners faced the Cincinnati Bengals last year. So they started off obviously very slow against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I think that they've had a get-right game. Jimmy didn't have necessarily a huge performance in that game, but he looked solid. Raheem Mostert tore apart that weak Cincinnati Bengals defense. You can see the same. I mean, the Jets, They had Jamal Adams. That was the huge trade of the offseason, and then C.J. Mosley opted out. So who's stopping the run for that defense? I think that, again, there's opportunities to exploit this team even without having necessarily a full complement or necessarily even having our best player on the field, George Kittle. There's a lot to like in this game. They just got a scheduling break with the injuries and everything that we get to face not only the Jets, but the Giants next week, and then the Eagles, who are also beat up in a few more weeks after that. Last thing I'll say for this one, hey, we get to see Frank Gore. We haven't got to see Frank Gore in a while. He's actually going to be starting at running back because Le'Veon Bell is going to be missing a couple weeks. So I love you, Frank. I mean, you were my first all-time favorite Niner for, this generation of Niners fans. Mm-hmm. So shout out to you, man. I mean, I wish I was seeing you on the other side of the field wearing some red and gold, but maybe that one-day contract whenever you decide to finally hang it up. Maybe we'll be signing Frank Gore Jr. for that one. But Niners fans, what I need you guys to do is go ahead and, of course, subscribe to our channel, like, comment, let us know what you think about this upcoming Sunday's game and what you think the Niners need to do to get better, what matchups you are eyeballing as well. Of course, my name is Juju Sports. That's Jose Corral, and we'll see you on the next one, faithful.